Hello and welcome. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo story. The Punjab shenanigans continue for the Congress, which finds itself in a virtual pickle, where the question is who will get to eat the paratha and have the last laugh as the comedy circus quite literally comes to the politics for the Congress party in this state ahead of polls. Let's bring up a big story this evening. Two things happened today. First, Navjot Singh Sidhu resigned as the state Congress chief in a letter filled with Sidhuisms, a lot of gobbledygook that basically said, I'm not going to compromise, and I was being asked to compromise. No one quite knows what the immediate trigger was, but it certainly is Amarinder Singh's I told you so moment. The captain, the former chief minister who is in Delhi, lashed out on Twitter saying he'd always said Sidhu was unstable for a sensitive border state like Punjab. In the meantime, the Aam Aadmi Party is lashing out and saying that Navjot Singh Sidhu could not bear the idea of a Dalit chief minister, talking about what was being called a masterstroke by political pundits. But amid all of this, you've got Kanhaiya Kumar wading into the Congress and Jignesh Mevani offering support. Can the Congress afford this chaos just ahead of elections? Is there still a comeback possible? And can the Congress sort itself out at all? What was dubbed as a masterstroke moment has ended in chaos and possible electoral disaster. That's our big focus on the program today. And let's bring up our panel of experts straight away. Ambassador Singh, who's of course a veteran diplomat, but has just formed a new munch in Punjab ahead of polls, is with us. Welcome, Ambassador. Arati, Jerath, veteran journalist, is with us. Jagtar Singh, he's one of our senior most journalists from Punjab, is with us as well. Tehseen, Poonawalla, Congress supporter, was waging a bet with me last week that the Congress was going to win Punjab, that the appointment of a Dalit chief minister was the biggest masterstroke, and this was Priyanka Gandhi's Ahmed Patel moment. Tehseen, let me start with you. Are you still sticking to your bet first that the Congress is going to win Punjab, Tehseen?
Absolutely. I stick by it. In fact, I go on to add that the Congress had 80 seats last time. It will cross 80 seats in the House of 170.
Acha, so then you don't think Sidhu's a big loss?
I think that the Congress is going to win. And anyone and everyone who wants to come within the Congress has to work within a framework and a leadership. The joint Congress leadership will take Punjab and India to prosperity.
अच्छा, ये तो जो नेता टाइप आंसर दे रहे हो, आप इसको थोड़ा डिटेल में जाते हैं. What did you make of this letter? Firstly, the Sidhuism, the collapse of a man's character stems from the compromise corner, etc., etc., etc. How did you read this letter, Tehseen?
I'm going to ask Dr. Tharoor to interpret it for me. But on a serious note, I mean, look, let's be clear that Captain Saab, as I told you earlier on your show, was removed because he was a deeply unpopular chief minister, and all the MLAs voted against him. Now, I agree that Sidhu is extremely popular, but in any organization, we have ambassador here, he started an organization, there has to be a framework. You have an organization, Barkha, not a political, but a media organization. You must work within a framework. And I'm going to be very honest, like I've always been within your thing. And everyone is welcome to work within that. You must work unitedly. Anyone feels that an individual is above an organization, I'm afraid that the organization cannot give in. That's my personal opinion. And I would hate to see an organization bend down. People come and go, organizations must stay on, and we must work within the scope of
So what I'm hearing you say is that both Sidhu and Captain, according to you, violated the rules of the organization.
Captain was deeply unpopular. I hope Sidhu ji better sense prevails. I hope matters get sorted out. He is extremely popular within Punjab. So I hope it prevails. But with or without any single individual, the organization must continue, life must go on, and I am sticking to my guns. I will give up political analysis if the Congress does not do well in Punjab. It is going to cross 80.
Okay, we're seeing shots of the captain reuniting with his NDA co-mates over the weekend. We also saw the new chief minister shaking a leg. That Bhangra viral video of his, I think we have it somewhere, that went viral. In the meantime, all of these dramatic photo ops are happening. Ambassador Singh, I don't know what to make of it. The captain enjoying a Fauji weekend, the chief minister enjoying the Bhangra, and the party going up in flames. Ambassador Singh. There's the chief minister. Go ahead.
You see, for the Barkha, for the last 4 weeks, the message of the munch has been, and we have gone to a number of places. We had a large function in Mansa, about 300 persons allowed in a hall. Uh, there is no focus on the issues. All that is being discussed is, in fact, I got a joke on the internet which said, there is a party that doesn't have a CM face, which is up, and here was Congress, which had 3 CMs in one day. Now, why is that an issue? The issues are immediately the farmers' protest, but distantly the farm crisis. Then there is the questions involving environment, there are questions involving jobs, industry. Why is industry left Punjab? There is no focus on the issues. And then there is law and order, there are drugs. Now, immediately the issue that has caused the problem in Congress are two. One is the Beadbi issue. Now, Beadbi issue is where some Guru Granth Sahib pages were torn after the Dera Sacha Sauda chief was first forgiven by Akal Takht, and then the thing was taken back, the pardon was taken back. So apparently some members of their group tore some pages. Now, who did the flip-flop? That was, of course, during Akali time. But subsequently, there was firing done on people who were protesting. So one is the Beadbi issue. Who did that? And second is, who ordered the firing? And that goes straight to Sukhbir Badal because he was the Deputy Chief Minister. And there is Mr. Saini, who was the Director General of Police. Now, this was one issue. And the second issue, of course, is drugs, where names of all kinds of people and their Kalidal are taken. So the charge against Amarinder, which basically his opponents were raising, was that when we go to the people, they ask us that when you took over, you swore, holding a Gutka Saab, that you will have all these people, the culprits, in jail in no time. But that has not happened. And on top of that, the High Court threw the SIT report out, saying this is all bunkum. So that started the rebellion. And Sidhu, who had been quiet for 2 years, suddenly got issues which he thought he can use to go after the captain. Now, how Congress handled it, I think is very poorly handled. They didn't know how to make.
Okay, we suddenly lost you there, Casey, but you were on that point of the Congress handling the incident poorly. Tehseen, let me just bring you in and then I'll go to Arati and Jagtar Singh. Go ahead.
No, I think I disagree with what Ambassador is about to say, that I think the Congress handled it poorly. I think with regards to Captain Saab, Mrs. Gandhi wrote a very public letter. I have previously on your show said that these are the three main issues which as captain did not fulfill the promise in the manifesto. 92% of the promises are fulfilled, but these were the important issues that were not fulfilled. Mrs. Gandhi's letter was in public domain way back in May. We're now in September, heading to October. So Captain Saab did not fulfill those promises despite the party president saying so. Now, in politics, like in army life, and I use this because captain was in the army, yours is not to question why, yours is but to do or die. If the captain, that is Mrs. Gandhi, has ordered you to do something and fulfill your promises, you better do it. There cannot be excuses. He did not fulfill those excuses, he had to go. With Sidhu, I think we know that Sidhuji is a little, Sidhu Paji is a little temperamental. I don't want to get into personal comments.
So he has a right. No, but I don't understand. You're sounding much softer on Sidhu's tantrum than you are on Captain Tehseen.
Because I genuinely hope for Sidhu Paji, better sense prevails. Because with or without anybody, I am absolutely categorical on your show. The Congress is winning Punjab and winning Uttarakhand. Now, for his sake, I hope better.
You're not answering.
Better sense prevails.
You're not answering.
No, I'm saying I hope for his sake, not for the sake of the party. For his sake.
Okay, Arati.
Let him know that.
Arati, the point is that this was a moment described as a master stroke, a Dalit chief minister. Priyanka Gandhi was described as the new Ahmed Patel for brokering this deal. It all seems to have ended in disaster. I don't know about what the electoral outcome would be, but let's say it's no coincidence that Arvind Kejriwal is headed to Punjab tomorrow, and this seems to be advantage Aam Aadmi Party. Arati, what do you make of this mess?
So, Barkha, I mean, I'm sorry, whatever Tehseen may say, and Tehseen is really, I think the lower the Congress plunges, the higher Tehseen spirits get. So, I think there's some problem there, in the Congress, which Tehseen is refusing to admit to. But the fact is that, look, I mean, let's break this up into different parts. One is the popularity or unpopularity of Amarinder Singh. Okay, there have been many surveys which have shown Amarinder Singh as an unpopular chief minister. not just for the fact that he did not fulfill poll promises, but also because he's been sort of pretty unapproachable, locked up in his house, not really communicating with people, not communicating with his ministers, and so on. That's one aspect. And the Congress should have realized this. If the Congress felt and believed all these reports and surveys that the captain was unpopular, they should have moved to take action against the captain at least a year before polls, because that would have made sense, not 4 months before elections, right? Secondly, putting in a Dalit chief minister is definitely, it's a, I mean, I wouldn't call it a masterstroke, but it's something new. It's a new gamble in Punjab, because Punjab has never had a Dalit chief minister. So, that was a gamble. And, I think it certainly has sparked off, something amongst Dalits, if polls are to be believed. It's sparked off some, sort of a buzz amongst Dalits in Punjab. But the third thing, and this is really, I think, the main thing, that whatever it is, Sidhu comes with a reputation. And, Tehseen talks about the individual should not be bigger than the organization. Did the Gandhis not know what Sidhu's reputation is? Did the Gandhis not know that Sidhu believes that he is bigger than every organization he belongs to? Did the Gandhis not know that Sidhu wants to be the king of Punjab? When he moved against Amarinder Singh, what was the idea when he was appointed PCC chief, and then the final move against Amarinder Singh happened to oust him? What did Sidhu want? He wants to be the Karta Dharta of the Congress in Punjab. It's as simple as that. And did the Gandhis not know this? So, now when the change took place and Amarinder was removed and they put in a Channi as chief minister, because the captain had virtually declared war on Sidhu and called him anti-national, and went public about his Pakistan connections, and said that, he would run a campaign if, Sidhu was made the chief minister in his place. So obviously the Gandhis, backed off, and they did not make Sidhu the chief minister. They chose Channi instead, which was a gamble. But surely they should have expected that there would be trouble from Sidhu. I mean, if they didn't, then it shows their political immaturity. It shows their inability to read people. And, in politics, you have to know your people well. You have
Absolutely.
to know, what they're.
I think it's a total bloody halwa, as they say. Well, halwa maybe is the wrong word, khichdi. But Tehseen will then say khichdi is tasty. Casey, you're back with us on an unstable line. I want you to elaborate on your tweet. You basically suggested that Sidhu has sensed that if the elections were to be won by the Congress, then Channi would continue as chief minister, and if not, then they'd both be out to dry. What do you think Sidhu's playing at, Casey?
Look, what happened is they took a vote, and in the vote, Mr. Randhawa had the most. First, Jagtar had the most votes, and the story going around is that Mrs. Gandhi had told Jagtar that you are the face. Whereupon he said, "Don't choose me because I'm a Hindu. Choose me for my intelligence, for my contribution." Now it so happens that he was blackballed by Sidhu. Then Mr. Randhawa was shot down by him. So he kept doing it to every name that came up. Now, of course, those defending the Congress are saying the brilliant move was you keep your main piece behind and you keep playing the other pieces till Sidhu is run out of that. And then you basically bring out a Dalit face. Now, with a 1/3 of the vote consisting of the scheduled castes, I think what their calculation was that this will upend both the other opposition parties, because AAP has counted to a very large extent on the vote of the Dalits, and Akalis had a tie-up with BSP. So with one move, basically it's supposed to be a brilliant move, which then upended the other two parties. But the problem with that was that.
Okay. I think Casey's talking about what the intention or the thought was behind that move. Let me bring in Mr. Jagtar Singh, and then I'll come to you, Tehseen. Jagtar Singh ji, how do you think this is going to play out on the ground, Sidhu quitting? Iska kya asar hoga?
Well, Sindhu happens to be very popular leader in Punjab, no doubt about it. Number two, Chennai choice was not a masterstroke in that sense. He was the last minute choice after Sidhu blocked Sukhjinder Singh Randhawa.
Right.
he was almost celebrating, distributing laddus till the last minute. Suddenly, Cheney's name came up. His name was proposed by Manpreet Singh Badal. Journalists go by information, not by suspects. And now, when Cheney started asserting himself, I think Sidhu lost his patience. He is temperamental, that is known. One thing should be known about Punjab under the current situation. The final outcome of elections would be dictated by farmer struggle. The political players will play a secondary role. I see it in that context. I may be wrong. When Tehseen say that Congress will get more than 80 seats, he should know in 92, when Akali Dal boycotted the election, Congress got 92. So it is not that is the last time Congress got 77. 3 are defectors. That is the situation.
Okay,
Now,
but sir, can I ask you, Jagtar Singh ji, ek minute. You have said very interestingly that Channi was a last-minute candidate, not a masterstroke, and I think that's really important to be said. After Sidhu's resignation, suppose Sidhu sticks to his resignation, do you still think Congress has the upper hand, Jagtar Singh ji?
the person who has lost his credibility is Navjot Singh Sidhu.
Right.
Time and again, he has been changing his position. I'm not his critic, I'm his admirer.
Okay.
But what is happening on the ground, that is not going to change the situation much, because it's likely that Chennai might stabilize himself, and he has given enough indication. Otherwise, Navjot
Right, very
would not
interesting.
have reacted this way.
Very interesting. So let me take this to Tehseen now. Tehseen, I think the point being made here is one, Channi, which was being called a master stroke, Mr. Charanjit Channi, the new Chief Minister of Punjab. I think, as Jagtar Singh ji said, was actually a last-minute choice after Sidhu basically vetoed all the other candidates. I want you to respond to everything you've heard thus far. Almost everybody but you seems to think this is a recipe for disaster. The way it's been handled. The way it's been handled.
Yeah, but I mean, ultimately, what is the destination? If we go by that, the destination is me winning the election. So as long as Jagtar Singh rightly puts it on the ground, I'm still winning. What matters is the road does not really matter. Then it's the outcome that matters. Isn't that what's often called Chanakya Niti? And why is somebody's move always called Chanakya Niti, but my move not called Gandhi Giri? See, ultimately, why Channi was Prime Minister.
What is the Gandhi Giri in this? What is the Gandhi Giri in this? Please explain what the thinking was. And do you acknowledge that Channi was made the Chief Minister after 3 others were vetoed by Mr. Sidhu? Because through that day from Channi, do you acknowledge that?
No, I acknowledge the fact that Mr. Channi is a very, very popular individual today who's asserting himself. And I can see for myself how forces loyal to Manuwad are coming out to humiliate a Dalit Chief Minister by questioning why he's going in a private plane. By going in a private plane, the IT cell, why is he going in a private cell? Because he's a Dalit child. How they can't digest a Dalit child dancing, how they mock him. He also, for the record, he is the most educated chief minister at the moment in the country. So this insult of Dalits will not be accepted. And we can see that amongst the 17 chief ministers, he's the only Dalit chief minister who's the most educated. So this is something that people, the Manuwadi forces can't see.
If he was so qualified, why wasn't he your first choice? Why was he your last choice?
He wasn't my last choice. That is something that you guys have come up with. None of you all, with due respect to Jagtar Singh, and I have a lot of respect to him, were in the meeting. I can tell you what happened, and one thing that happened was, sometimes you allow people, sometimes in boxing, you allow people to make their moves. You take your punches, and then you have your final move. My final move was a master stroke. Somebody has a right to think it was something else. It is working for me, and I'm crossing 80 feet.
Let's be more specific. Do you believe Sidhu is a loss, or do you believe Sidhu will still come back?
It will be a loss for Sidhu if he leaves Congress. It will not be a loss for Congress. I am saying this on record. Congress requires Sidhu because he does bring certain amount of value, but it won't affect Congress's prospect of winning. For Sidhu's sake, I hope, and I'm saying this absolutely categorically, he better come back. If he feels he wants to go and take Miss Rukshana, whose advisor whose husband is an advisor, and create all of that, it's sad. It'll be a setback for the Congress. Will not lead to a defeat. So I hope Sidhu better sense prevails. Also, Arati ji, you said my spirits go high when Congress goes low. No, ma'am. My spirits go high when I'm proved right and when those who are of no value leave.
But basically, if you're saying that you still believe that the Congress will win, it means Sidhu was an
80 plus.
irrelevance. It means
80 plus.
it means according to you, the Sidhu was an irrelevance. Now, one thing
No, I
we
am not
haven't
saying that. I think he brings a value. I'm saying he brings a value. I am absolutely saying he brings a value. Is that value enough to defeat the Congress? No. Perhaps the reason for that is that the Akali is extremely unpopular right now. BJP does not have a base. AAP is slightly popular but does not have an organization. Perhaps that could be factors, but the Congress is in a position to cross 80 seats. Make that clear.
Okay, I mean, your rhetoric has to be tested by reality. But Arti, one other thing we haven't discussed is that all of this is happening on a day when the Aam Aadmi Party says Kejriwal is headed to Punjab and Amarinder is in Delhi amid rumors or reports that he could be meeting with the BJP. Now, his media advisor Raveen Tukral went on to Twitter to say this is all speculative, but that wasn't really a denial. It wasn't that this will never happen. It just said he's on a personal visit, and Amrinder himself has made it very clear that all options are open for him.
Yes, but I think, I don't know how Navjot Singh Sidhu's resignation will change equations in Punjab. I mean, if he's quit and he refuses to come back and stays away, then I don't know. Maybe the captain will have to re-strategize and rethink, his future moves, because suddenly his main opponent, his main rival, has vanished from the scene. So he may, sort of think again, because look, let's face it, the BJP never had much of a base in Punjab. It piggybacked on the Akali Dal to, win whatever it did. And after the farm protest, today the BJP is a bad word in Punjab. I do not think that, if the captain ties up with the BJP, I think he really would be finishing off his political future. So, I don't know. I think he's just keeping everybody guessing, playing games with people, mind games with people. But I really, the BJP is not a factor in Punjab. And in fact, as I said, the BJP is a bad word in Punjab today. I agree with Jagtar Singh ji that I think a lot depends on who the farmers decide to support. And I don't know, I think farmers are waiting and watching, to see how events unfold, which party seems to be the best place to, actually form a government. And then it will probably deliver a decision, and their support is the support that matters, really. At the end of the day, for any political party, they must woo the farmers. And that's why Channi has decided that he's going to lead a protest and sit outside the Prime Minister's house with the farmers in Delhi, because he realizes the importance of that voter segment.
Yeah, but now both key contenders, Ambassador K.C. Singh and then to Jagtar Singh, have actually supported the farmers. You've had Manish Sisodia from the Aam Aadmi Party very visibly go and join the platform of the protesting farmers, and you've had the Congress obviously support the protest. Do you believe it will be the tipping point, K.C.?
Barkha, I'm sorry, my signal is flickering, so let me go fast on this. Look, firstly, the feedback you get when you go around in Punjab's hinterland is they are sick and tired of Congress. They're sick and tired of Akalis. They are drifting towards AAP because there's no other option. They really want change. Now, as far as the farmers are concerned, they are not going to have one party. Gurnaam Singh Chaduni, who's from Haryana, has already gone and campaigned. And the other farming SKM piled onto him. Mr. Rajewal has said no campaigning till December. I think they're hoping that probably Prime Minister will settle the farming issue before the UP election, and they may be quite mistaken. Mr. Modi doesn't settle things that way. And thirdly, Mr. Ugrahan, who has the largest group, has said he has nothing to do with politics. He's only got his demands. So there's no such thing as a farmers' party, and there's not going to be a farmers' party. In any case, the Jat community is only a quarter of the population. They cannot, even if they all unite, some vote will go to Akali Dal and so on and so forth. So they cannot really elect more than a certain number of people. Now, coming to Amarinder Singh, yes, he seemed to be headed towards BJP. I had a long television program in which I said it 4 days ago. Now, there is a change of tune. I don't know, something has happened at the Chandigarh airport, because I believe Mrs. Sonia Gandhi and Rahul took a private plane from the airport. Captain was somewhere in the vicinity of the airport. Have they had a meeting? has the door opened again to Amarinder, where Mrs. Gandhi said, look, the siblings have made a mistake. I'm sorry, you have not given the respect. After all, he feels he's been insulted, and he named Rahul and Priyanka in that. His relationship with Sonia is still intact. He said nothing to Sonia. Now, are they repairing the relationship? Because the captain himself, after he landed, very clearly said, otherwise he wouldn't have said it categorically, I'm not meeting any political person. He may have been wanting to earlier. There might have been a little change now, particularly if he feels Sidhu is exiting. If that happens, then Congress is the party. Who else is there? Now, coming to Channi, it's a double-edged sword. Firstly, Sidhu was patronizing him, calling him Channi Bai, this and that, which was not liked. Everybody said, look, he's a chief minister now. He's not a Bai. He's a chief minister. So give him respect in public. Then when the swearing-in took place, there was no position for the president of PCC. He appears in a picture with the governor where the ministers sworn in are there. I checked with somebody who was there, one of the MLAs. He said this guy went onto the stage. There was no chair for him. They had to pull a chair for him. And they all said, Hanji, Hanji, Sidhu Saab, sit down. So, he's been trying to patronize him. Now, the other thing is that the chief minister has not been able to retain the home portfolio. Now, what kind of a chief minister are you in Punjab if you don't have the danda, if the police is not under you? So you empower a Dalit and yet you weaken him because you're worried about the DGP he has, who's also from the same community, his principal secretary is from the same community. Then what happens to BJP and the Muslims may well happen in Punjab, where the counter consolidation takes place. All the Dalits will not vote for Congress because, there are 5 or 6 different groups in that. He's from the Ramdasias. Already, the certain other groups are feeling they've been excluded. So you may have a counter consolidation in the villages if there is excess of this, that you've given too much power there. So it's all very, very dicey. I don't think anybody has made up their mind. And the most stuck is up because Kejriwal wants to micromanage it, probably keep the seat for himself. He doesn't want, he has said no to Bhagwant Mann. As yet, Bhagwant Mann may rebel. And he would be completely out of his mind if he's going to take Sidhu. Because if Sidhu is going to be into up, you'll have another big flare-up. And a bigger flare-up than you have seen here. So either he's completely demoralized and he thinks he can't do it on his own. So he borrows the services of Mr. Sidhu. Otherwise, it just doesn't work.
I somehow just don't see that happening. I don't think the
so I'll just
personalities.
conclude that it's completely fluid. Barkha, nobody can say somebody's getting 80 or 60 or 70. Absolutely not. In fact, the general thing is Congress will be happy if they are the single largest party. And as yet, you don't know if Amarinder is stepping out. As a last point, Amarinder cannot join BJP unless there is a farmers' settlement. Because he cannot go back to the Punjab villages if he joins the cabinet or joins the BJP and the farmers' issue is not settled. And if the farmers' issue is settled by Prime Minister, then the question will arise: why did you keep the farmers sitting for 10 months?
Those are pictures of Amarinder reaching Delhi today, whereas Ambassador K.C. Singh pointed out, despite rumours that he would be meeting with Amit Shah and JP Nadda, he said that's not happening. Jagtar Singh ji, before I get last comments from Arati and Tehseen, one second, Tehseen, I'm coming to you. Jagtar Singh ji, in a minute. Jagtar Singh ji, what do you see happening? Do you believe Aam Aadmi Party has the advantage in this chaos?
In 2017, the situation was the same, and AAP got just 20 seats. At that time, the support the AAP had was immense, unlike this time.
Okay.
This is the difference between the two situations, and AAP failed to function even as opposition. The party
who has the advantage right now, Jagtar Singh ji? Who has the advantage?
One more about the list. I like to make it very clear. Kashira belonged to Punjab, but BSP failed to take off in Punjab despite 32% of population being scheduled caste.
Yes.
It is not a monolith. There's a mix. So that group functions in a different way.
Okay.
Lastly, the situation at the moment is fluid. Nothing can be said about the outcome. There are various factors that would operate.
Okay. Arati, 30 seconds and then Tehseen can close for us. Your last thoughts, Arati? Tehseen, hang on. Arati? Yeah.
Barkha, I think the situation is absolutely fluid in Punjab. I mean, look at the kind of dramatic developments we've seen just in the past month or two. Every day somebody's quitting, resigning, somebody else is coming in. So I think for the people of Punjab, it's a really sort of Hobson's choice. Really, who do you choose from this comedy that they're seeing unfolding in front of them? It's a it's very sad. I mean, it's really the voters of Punjab, who deserve our sympathy and.
Absolutely. I agree with that. It's absolute chaos. Tehseen, do you think there's a window for a captain to come back with the exit of Sidhu? Is it like a revolving doors moment?
No, I don't know. I mean, politics, you never know what happens in the future. But I agree with what Jagtar Singh said that in 2017, not only was the situation the same, you remember, Barkha, and you were reporting at that point, Captain was ready to form his own political party and go a separate way. So even despite that, the Congress has won. The Congress has a very solid base. And I just want to tell KC Singh ji one thing, that if Captain decides to go to the BJP, the question, and we've thought about this, those who support the Congress, the question that will be asked is, then the 600 farmers were martyred. So if this was a game between the Honorable Prime Minister and the Honorable Ex-Chief Minister of Punjab, did you take 600 lives? That would actually backfire. So that, I think, is something
No,
that is being
I
thought
think
about.
KC also said that there would need to
Oh,
be a
I am
settlement
sorry.
of the farmers. Yeah, there would need to be a
Yeah,
settlement of the farmers.
that settlement cannot be that you cannot suddenly then paint the Honorable Prime Minister as the hero, as his 9 p.m. journalists do when his favorite media advisor sends them WhatsApp on what to tweet in the toolkit. That will not happen. That will backfire.
I think Jagtar Singh ji wants one
Barkha,
sentence to what you said. Yeah.
Barkha, last point. In 2017, RSS has backed Captain Amarinder Singh. The understanding has been arrived between Amit Shah and Captain Amarinder Singh.
That's true.
Okay.
That is how the party got 77 seats.
All right. Okay. So it just gets more and more intriguing. We'll have to leave it there. We're out of time. Thank you, Ambassador KC Singh, Tehseen, Poonawalla, Jagtar Singh, and Arati. Jerath. I think we all agree. We all agree that it's a ball by ball play, to borrow from Sidhu's earlier life. And we leave it there. Thank you, everybody. And to our audience, see you tomorrow, same time. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.